President Sisi reviews the final preparations for the Grand Egyptian Museum's opening. Egypt dispatched its 43rd aid convoy from Rafah to Gaza via Qnews Abu Salim border crossing. And Egypt's cabinet approves a public investment plan for the 2025-2026 fiscal year. The news in detail. Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has met with Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli and Tourism and Antiquities Minister Sharif Fathi to review final preparations for the Grand Egyptian Museum's opening on November 1st. President Sisi stressed meticulous oversight to ensure the event reflects the museum's global stature while enhancing the surrounding area's visual identity. The meeting also addressed tourism investment with positive indicators showing rising demand for Egypt as a destination. President Sisi emphasized a central role for the private sector in expanding capacity, diversifying markets, and maximizing dollar revenues. Discussions include boosting hotel infrastructure, facilitating new projects, and cooperation with UNESCO on heritage preservation, site management, and sustainable cultural tourism. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi discussed with Central Bank Governor Hassan Abdullah the latest developments regarding the enhancement of the banking sector's performance. The spokesperson for the presidency, Ambassador Mohammed al-Shenawi, stated that the president followed up on the recent improvements in several indicators such as the decline in the exchange rate and the continued reduction in inflation rates. Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has reaffirmed Egypt's appreciation for its strategic partner with the African Export-Import Bank, the Afrexim Bank, and its role in boosting the intra-African trade and expanding the continent's share in global markets. Hosting outgoing President Benedict Ormama and incoming President George Ilombi at the Al-Ittihadiyya Palace, El-Sisi praised Orama's leadership, highlighting his role in launching the African Continental Free Trade Area, and congratulated Ilombi ahead of his new mandate until 2030. Discussions covered Afrexim Bank's vision to enhance industrialization, exports, and financing across Africa, as well as opportunities to deepen cooperation with Egypt, which hosts the bank's headquarters and remains its largest shareholder through the central bank and 5 Egyptian banks. Egypt has dispatched its 43rd aid convoy under the Zad al-Izza provision of honor from Egypt to Gaza initiative from Rafah to Gaza via Qnews Abu Salim border crossing. Despite persistent Israeli obstructions, with many trucks turned back after inspections, Egypt has maintained steady aid flows via the Egyptian side of the Rafah border crossing. That comes as UNRWA warns of an escalating humanitarian disaster, revealing 1 in 3 children in Gaza went without food in the past 24 hours, with many forced into labor or begging. The agency demanded an immediate ceasefire. Meanwhile, the Egyptian Red Crescent, backed by 35,000 volunteers, has coordinated over 500,000 tons of aid since the crisis began. Egypt continues delivering humanitarian aid to Gaza, with trucks carrying thousands of tons of food, medicine, blankets, and water. Egypt's Foreign Minister Badr Abdulati has reaffirmed Egypt's unwavering stances on regional and global issues, stressing there can be no Middle East stability without a sovereign Palestinian state. Addressing the UN General Assembly, he rejected any forced displacement of Palestinians, warned of looming regional collapse under Israeli aggression, and urged greater humanitarian aid for Gaza. He highlighted Egypt's mediation with the US and Qatar towards a ceasefire, praised Washington's engagement, and called for a just peace rooted in international law. Abdullah Ati underscored Egypt's role in Yemen, Libya, Sudan, and Somalia, defended refugee rights, and warned Ethiopia that Egypt will safeguard its Nile rights through legal means if necessary. Egypt's Foreign Minister Badr Abdullah Ati has discussed UN reform, regional crises, and the war in Gaza and the West Bank with the President of the UN General Assembly's 80th session, Annalena Baerbock. Abdullah Ati congratulated her on assuming office, reaffirming Egypt's commitment to multilateralism and UN principles. Abdullah Ati stressed the urgent need to restore UN credibility amid global double standards, highlighting Cairo's vision for Security Council reform under the Oswalini Consensus to address Africa's historic marginalization. Talks also covered peacekeeping, development, climate adaptation, migration, and financing reforms on Gaza. He condemned Israeli killings and starvation, urged a ceasefire, unhindered aid, and protection of civilians while rejecting displacement. He confirmed Egypt's plan to host a reconstruction conference. Egypt's Foreign Minister Badr Abdullah Ati has met UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly. He conveyed the greetings of President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, praised Guterres' balanced stances, and reaffirmed Egypt's support for the UN's peace and security role. Discussions centered on Gaza, where Abdullah Ati stressed the urgency of a ceasefire, unimpeded aid, and rejection of forced displacement, reiterating Egypt's call for a Palestinian state on 1967 borders with East Jerusalem as the capital. He announced Egypt's plan to host a reconstruction conference for Gaza. Talks also covered Sudan's stability, Libya's political process, and Egypt's mediation in the Iran-IAEA agreement. Both sides agreed to maintain close coordination to advance peace, stability, and development globally. Egypt has won a Category 2 seat on the International Civil Aviation Organization, the ICAO Council, marking a major achievement in its civil aviation sector. Egypt joins 11 other nations in the category, including India, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, and Switzerland, for a 3-year term on the 36-member council. Civil Aviation Minister Dr. Sameh Al-Hifni hailed the victory as Egypt's highest ever international aviation ranking, reflecting growing international confidence in its role in shaping global air transport. He credited Egypt's political leadership and its Vision 2030 strategy for prioritizing aviation modernization. Egypt reaffirmed its commitment to ICAO's strategic plan in August 2025, pledging continued efforts towards aviation safety, sustainability, and regional cooperation. Egypt's Minister of Electricity and Renewable Energy, Mahmoud Ismat, has reaffirmed Egypt's commitment to localizing the manufacturing of systems and components for its peaceful nuclear energy program during talks with Rosatom Director General Alexei Lekashev in Moscow. The meeting, held on the sidelines of the World Atomic Week and the High-Level Nuclear Energy Summit, focused on the progress of the Al-Daba nuclear power plant, timeline adherence, and preparations for receiving the reactor pressure vessel for the plant's first unit. Both sides reviewed cooperation on technology transfer, training, and industrial localization in line with Egypt's energy strategy focused on diversification, clean energy, and carbon reduction, but emphasized the nuclear project's role in supporting grid stability and sustainable development, and praised Egypt's Russia relations as the foundation of ongoing collaboration. Egypt's Supply and Internal Trade Minister Sharif Farouk has met with EU Ambassador to Cairo, Angelina Eghorst, to discuss enhancing cooperation in food security and domestic trade. Farouk outlined government plans to secure strategic commodities, improve the food subsidy system with a new unified cost scheme, and modernize internal trade through digital transformation. He emphasized the importance of partnership with the EU in developing supply chains, ensuring product quality, and expanding markets for Egyptian exports. Eghorst praised Egypt as a regional hub and reaffirmed the EU's commitment to supporting efforts to modernize supply systems, benefiting consumers and strengthening export competitiveness. Both sides agreed to continue close coordination to deepen cooperation on shared priorities. Egypt's Minister of Health, Khaled Abdel Ghaffar, has announced plans to expand intensive care units, neonatal incubators, and emergency services nationwide to relieve hospital pressure. Supported by political leadership, the initiative aims for 24/7 efficiency and improved patient care. Abdel Ghaffar reviewed hospital occupancy, supplies, and equipment maintenance and emphasized training more specialized emergency physicians. He also called for transport bed tracking and better coordination to ensure patients receive timely treatments. The Ministry of Health and Population announced the provision of 105,238,948 free medical services over a period of 74 days since the launch of the third edition of the 100 Days of Health campaign. The ministry explained that just 2 days ago on Friday, the campaign delivered 419,978 free medical services, noting that the campaign is implemented with the participation of 12 different sectors. The Ministry of Housing has announced the completion of 757,000 housing units for low and middle income citizens, as well as green housing units under the presidential initiative Housing for All Egyptians. An additional 247,345 units are currently under construction. During meeting between Minister of Housing Sharif Al-Sherbini and the Board of Directors of Social Housing and Mortgage Finance Support Fund, both parties reviewed the status of approximately 1,064,828 housing units being implemented for low and middle income citizens in green housing under the Housing for All Egyptian initiative. Egypt's cabinet has approved a public investment plan for the 2025-2026 fiscal year, with spending capped at 1.16 trillion Egyptian pounds, around $37 billion. According to Minister of International Cooperation Rania El-Mashat and World Bank Managing Director Anshola Kant, the plan aligns with Egypt's national narrative for economic development and Vision 2030. Focusing on diversifying the economy, boosting export, reducing imports, and enhancing resilience to external shocks. Al-Mashat highlighted Egypt's $8.7 billion World Bank portfolio supporting key sectors such as energy and logistics, while Kant reaffirmed the bank's commitment through initiatives like the 2025 financial facilitation incentives for debt for development swaps, targeting education, healthcare, and environmental goals. The Central Bank of Egypt, alongside the Ministry of Finance, is set to auction 55 billion Egyptian pounds in treasury bills. The offering includes two tranches, 20 billion pounds in 91-day T-bills maturing on December 30, 2025, and 35 billion pounds in 273 days T-bills maturing on June 30, 2026. Treasury bills are short-term government debt instruments used to raise funds for public spending. That brings us to the end of our Egyptian bulletin. Here is a quick recap of the most important headlines. President Sisi reviews the final preparations for the Grand Egyptian Museum's opening. Egypt dispatched its 43rd aid convoy from Rafah to Gaza via Kerm Abu Salim border crossings. And Egypt's cabinet approves a public investment plan for 2025-2026 fiscal year. That's all for now. Remember to stay updated by following Qnews for the latest developments. Many thanks for watching.